The Sleepers, Chapter 36, Secrets.
Jane came home and curled her hair before switching into the short, black dress she'd worn at the gala. It was the best she owned. She wasn't some tall, paper-thin supermodel like she'd imagined rich boys like John dated, but her toned legs were still worth showing off. In fact, any time she bared her legs, he had taken clear notice. Playing the rules with John was fun. He had been weirdly aloof this week, though, calling off their visits 3 days in a row. Something was certainly going on. The dress was a ploy to entice him out or at least spend time with her. As she prepared to leave, he called. He should have been asleep, halfway through his client's 7 hours. "Hi, sweetie," she lathered the call-in charm. "Why aren't you asleep? I'm dolled up and ready to make your night." He laughed. That was a start.
"I'm sorry, Jane, but I've got to cancel again."
"What?" She kept her reply simple, but this was infuriating. No one dressed up and did her hair to be told sleep mattered more.
"I know, I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you, but I just can't sleep well this week and have ruined another rest for Ray. I've got to go back under still. Come over tomorrow after work. If I've messed up another sleep for him, Ray will live."
And the call was over. Not even a chance to break him with this outfit. Well, she would not be dressing up tomorrow. She flopped down on her sofa, exasperated. What was he up to now? A few more hours and her second appointment would start. She kept the dress on in rebellion against John and the world. No way would she waste this dress and the curling time. Leaving her home, Jane rode the train, getting off 2 stops early to confuse potential watching eyes. She walked the rest of the distance along the city path, letting her courage boil. She should have changed out of heels, but it was part of the outfit, and John's stupidity would not ruin the way she looked. Jane approached the masculine figure. He didn't conceal his presence or hide his visage behind a trench coat. This was not a trite CIA movie clip from the Cold War. He had other ways and ample means to protect himself. Jane suddenly felt odd staying dolled up for this secretive man, even out of spite for John.
"It's nice to see you again, Jane. Any troubles tonight?" he asked, referring to her coming unnoticed, not to John.
"None at all, sir," she replied, with a sense of resign and deference. They stood facing each other in the dark, but this man could read her emotions.
"You are different tonight. Is everything fine? Did anything happen between you and John?"
He could fake personal concern, and maybe he even cared. But he was a man like John, a man on a mission. She was too smart to be naively deceived by this mastermind. Seeing a potential crack to escape, she answered, "I need a break, perhaps an eternal break. I can love John and be his confidant, but I can't spy on him. Informants aren't meant to fall in love. They are meant to do their job. I'm failing as both confidant and informant."
"But you're wrong, Jane," he corrected without wasting time. "The very best in the business are bound by something worthier than greed or revenge or even patriotism. I can think of no greater emotion to drive your success, and ultimately John's. Already he is changing because of your subtle adjustments. He has changed his nightly rituals. He even let you into his laboratory. You are making fantastic progress because you have bonded. We aren't going to sever the connection now. In fact, it's time to push John again. Further, he trusts you, and so we must act."
Her resistance had gone as unnoticed as a homemade dinghy swallowed by a cruise liner. Before he could describe his plans further and define push, she interrupted, flustered. "But it's too soon. I was just barely shown the laboratory. I'm trying to bail out, and you want more?"
"Need I remind you of our purpose? Need I remind you that this is bigger than you and John? I want more, because I am the clockmaker, and the clock needs adjustment. I created the clock. I will fix the clock."
His face was stern and certain. Jane breathed heavily, collecting her last shards of composure. She could handle John's arrogance because his passion was admirable and because she loved him. But she only needed one commanding man in her life, and now she was trapped between 2. John is extremely suspicious. He likes me, but if I push him too hard, I will frighten him away. He'll box me out.
No, John needs you now more than you know. You play your cards right, and he will fold. He will tell you his plans and employ you in his plot. Look how easy it was to get into the lab.
She had to choose her next words wisely. Trying to mask her absolute frustration, I'm not so sure he will. Just give me a few more months. Let us work through our evolving relationship. If he were to someday marry me, he would have to open up. I can move it along then. The clockmaker grew impatient and replied with authority. Remember, I'm employing you. I know him better than you do, and I know his path. Then why use me? Why not do this yourself? He continued unfazed, shifting subjects to the facts and entirely dismissing any of her questions.
Unless he's found a new underground supplier, John has not ordered a batch of test rats since before you saw the lab. It has been over 4 months. Either John has discovered the final solution, or he's out of ideas and nightmares didn't work. Either way, we need to know more. You need to investigate, and this time you need to know everything.
Jane could feel her defenses and resolve crumbling. This man always did his research. He could purchase omniscience. But despite the reluctance, she was equally tantalized by the thought of a potential solution. If John had found the drug, she wanted to know. Espionage, like love, was so addictive. Maybe he's kept the rats out of the house because I'm there. He could be working somewhere else. She grasped for straws, knowing compliance was inevitable.
I keep enough eyes on John to know if he is working another angle. He's ordered new rats every few months since starting at Sleep Free. The fact that he showed you the lab not only means he trusts you, it means he's close. He would not let a woman stop his work.
Jane frowned as he continued.
But he's getting cocky, and he's going to need you at his side. Push him, and we will know.
If she wasn't so beaten, she might have smacked him. Instead, the directive ended all discussion. Only action remained. Disgust and disappointment oozed over Jane. She had failed to break free. The puppet master had at least 2 puppets in his show. Jane excused herself and snuck away, filled with sick dread. Class started too early for her to party at this hour. The walk had frazzled her hair anyway. Finding the closest train station, she headed home, pondering the mess as the train hurled around curves and overpasses. The weeks had passed quickly after John revealed the secret laboratory. Everything had been going well up till then, which meant it was time for her dreaded appointment with the devil. It always seemed to come at the worst times, when Jane felt most strongly that she could not maintain this lifestyle another day. She could not love John and lie to him. The closer she grew to John, the more difficult these clandestine meetings became. The puppet master required meeting at least monthly, always in person, coming always in the dark. He wanted to guarantee John would never be awake for these exchanges, even though she never came before first tucking in John for his own sleep. Jane had planned to stand up to him this time. She'd monitored John's actions for months, reported every nuance and change, every sound and smell from behind closed doors, and despite this treachery, she fell in love. This was life's unfairness. The puppet master offered her the chance of a lifetime because he knew Jane would fall in love. Once in love, separation would be impossible. The entanglement would be inescapable. Jane was hand-picked and played, believing this would be the best chance to fight Sleep Free. She thought she could remain detached. What a fool. This was not the first time Jane found herself fuming on the train. She attended most of the recent exchanges believing it would be her last. With enough gumption and eloquence, she'd convinced the puppet master to snip the strings. She was a school teacher, not a spy. Yet each secret visit bent her will and forced surrender. Unraveling mysteries trapped behind John's visible and invisible walls was a fantastic drug. Even better than good dreams, and definitely better than the boredom of work. John's life unfolded like the best mystery novel. Morsels, then avalanches of new discoveries surfacing daily. Her students seemed hopeless next to John. He was doing something in that lab, something great, and soon enough, She'd get John to spill it all.
I did not experience dream awareness a second time for several days. Perhaps because I was too eager or too forceful, nothing happened. 2 sleeps a day and no repeat victory. I wondered if it had been a fluke or a trick of the mind. Then came day 4. I was in a dream sleeping for myself when my mind clued in on the absurdities, the so-called horrors of dreamland, and alerted my logical half to the discrepancy. I lasted several mental minutes in the state of awe before my own awareness caused me to wake up. 1 moment of lucidity could be a statistical outlier, but 2 in the same week meant success. I did not control the dream, but repetition gave me hope. Despite failing Carl's first lessons, he expounded his secondary lessons in case I did ultimately wake up in the dream. His lesson titles reflected both his ancestral austerity and his directness. Lesson 1, Awareness precedes control. Lesson 2, Control comes by degrees. Lesson 3, Don't micrometer your thermometer. The first and second lessons seemed self-evident from their title, Walk Before You Run. The third title captured the art of self-control, the wisdom of experience. After you have mastered the degrees, learn to leave some of the dream to the client. I had experienced awareness twice, yet I had not shaped the dream. I set a goal to immediately materialize a sword in my next dream. Theory stated that moments of danger within dreams were more likely to activate lucidity, at which point the average 2B+ on the lucidity matrix chose a simple weapon for protection. Psychologists blamed human instinct, fight or flight at the subconscious level. It is too difficult under adrenaline overload to devise some clever escape. Better to bring your Neanderthal club. I would follow the literature and sleep for Ray thinking swords. With 2 sleeps per day, I had ample opportunities to practice. I had to get to sleep before Jane arrived. I could not postpone our rendezvous any longer without unwanted questions. Since meeting, we had never gone 5 days apart. At first, Jane stoically accepted my excuses over the phone. She even offered sympathies for my workload, but her attitude seemed to have soured. Jane was nibbling my ear. That was a new way to wake up. She'd turned off the alarm just before the 7-hour mark. You're a way better alarm. Glad you came over, I spoke groggily.
Well, I've missed you this last week.
Jane had cuddled up against my chest, still dressed in her school clothes. Me too. I removed the visor and started pulling the tubes. I'm really sorry life has been so busy and stressful these last few days. I finally managed to record a good sleep. Such trite, proper lies induced mental vomiting, but I choked back honesty. She hugged me tightly and smothered me with precise, playful kisses, leading the conversation from pleasantries to physical. Apparently, she did miss me, or she wanted something. I maneuvered off the rest of the kit, not letting go.
5 days is too long for us, sir.
She had me in her arms and commanded my every move, teasing me with her schoolteacher authority. Considering this a light moment, I replied with guilty eyes, Yes, Teacher Jane, it won't happen again. Apparently satisfied with my apology, but not letting go, she casually changed subjects, but her voice lost a touch of playfulness.
What exactly are you working on every night?
Was this an interrogation, the price of 5 days of separation? I thought we had ended this question after I opened the laboratory. Leftovers, I quipped, as if I could package up science in a lunch sack for later. She had seen the laboratory, she had met my parents. Our relationship was progressing, if ever slowly for a woman. Nothing more would be given, and nothing more was required.
It can't always be work.
She shook her head with both laughter and sternness.
You can't be that busy. Were these extra hours at home this week or at work?
She was relentless and irresistible. How could she question me and kiss me at the same time? As I said before, it's that simple. More work means more discoveries. I sleep for work, and I work for sleep. I half believed the fable myself. Few ever entered my house, so explanation was never required.
I don't believe you.
She dropped the coy undertone in exchange for bluntness and pulled slightly away.
I have seen you nearly every day for 1 year. Not even archetypal mad scientists, which I'm not yet convinced you are not, work that much. And why have a personal laboratory when you could just stay late at work? Why leave it all?
I'm working on state-of-the-art drugs, she countered coldly.
It seems you could manage your time better and work at work. I'm sure no one continues their efforts after hours, not even the most OCD-ridden scientists. Besides, I doubt Sleep Free would let their secrets out the door to a private lab.
No equivocation. What a woman. Even while under attack, I was entranced by this opponent and lover. She badgered on.
Of 24 precious hours, you slave 7 sleeping for him, 6 hours working for him, and 6 hours sleeping for yourself if you're lucky, leaving only 5 hours off.
She paused, vexed at the chronic allocation.
I thought sleep was about freedom, the gift of time.
The gift of time? That's our best line, I interjected, knowing the propaganda department very well. She continued, apparently asking her question only rhetorically.
With those 5 precious hours, you come home only to resume work? No.
She stood up from the bed, leaving me staring at this possessed beauty.
No. You put something above eating, relaxation, and honestly, us. This obsession is something more, and you cannot deny it any longer.
Yes, I love my work, I stammered off, losing my resilience to her potency. I was losing this battle quickly, for better or worse. Jane bent down, eliminating any distance to look away, and held my left cheek and jaw in her right hand, forcing my eye contact and breaking my defenses.
No, there is more, and I know it. I have never met this Ray. He is a ghost from a part of your life you keep locked away. It was only by chance I met your family. You keep me away from your world. You're either hiding me, or them, or both. What are you doing day after day in this apocalyptic backdoor science chamber anyway? You need to tell me now,
she demanded while giving one stern nod of the head. The siren transformed from flirtation to disembowelment, metaphorically. Somehow I had always planned to surrender, though her cajolement forced my hand early. Phase 2 was always confidence. Carl taught me progress requires an ally or a puppet. Jane fit the former. I had likely discovered Cumulus. The antidote was in my hands. Testing had to commence. But Jane somehow loved me. The reciprocation of feelings with no ulterior motive was so perplexing, in fact so utterly foreign, that it gave me unplanned pause to imagine discarding our relationship for honesty or for the plan's sake. Unexplainable as our relationship might be, Jane was here, in my home, day after day, to see me. The truth could frighten her away. I could test my new drug's power in many ways. There were plenty of easily manipulated women. I could keep lying, or even lose Jane. I didn't need to open Pandora's box with the truth. But for some reason, I needed Jane for me to see this through. It was not the right time for a break.
John, you are too smart to have remained all these years enslaved to Ray. Your sleep job may be the cushiest, most prestigious, or possibly most historically famous sleep assignment, but you're still a sleeper. You still belong to another man. The facts don't add up. You're not the type of man to spend life sleeping. You're clearly not Ray's friend. I know there's something more.
Milliseconds passed before I could respond. Jane seized on my reluctance and issued her ultimatum.
This is the time to tell me or watch me leave.
I finally relented. Resistance is pointless against a determined lover. I sighed the relief of a man ready to have the greatest of burdens lifted. I didn't know if it was theatrical or true emotion, but it came slowly and naturally. Jane, I'm changing the world.
I know you are, John,
she said without hesitation. No, really, I am changing the world, I repeated firmly, believing my confidence had not impressed her. Not in that naive sort of tossing starfish back in the ocean way, nor the impotent, peaceful sit-in way. I will shake American foundations and topple paradigms. This is the start of a violent upheaval of the mind. My father prays for penance. I'm delivering it, and I'm almost done. Carl Schleiff died when I entered college. As my only confidant and cohort, my secret had rested subterranean for many years. The moratorium was maddening. Spilling plans to Jane was cathartic to the point of euphoria. Her face scrunched in confusion.
I'm not following this nebulous declaration. What exactly are you doing? What's your endgame?
Fundamentally, I'm undoing what we've done. I'm righting the wrongs of my fathers. I'm unraveling the sleeper's web. Reading her still confused face, I continued after a pause. More practically, I'm empowering sleepers. I have created a substitute sleep drug that enables lucid dreaming for sleepers. I am a few chess moves away from working my drug into Sleep Free's sonorous cocktail. Sleep Free will market its own destruction. I will transform suppression into freedom. My willingness to show all my cards waned at this moment, and I recovered from my suppressed enthusiasm. I had given sufficient truth. She thought about my words. I could see her contemplate their meaning and connect the dots to conclusion, recognizing the great risk if all sleepers dreamt lucidly. Jane tiptoed to the end result.
And you believe, if more people were lucid dreamers, it would undermine the system to the point of collapse?
Absolutely, I said fervently, excited by her rapid assimilation. Even confiding in half-truths was enough to bring me comfort. She now knew enough of the plan without needing to understand the endgame and motivation. We're not talking more people, Jane, my enthusiasm resumed. I'm going to deliver this drug, I call it Cumulus, into every sleeping home in America. The name earned a smirk back as she knew my obsession with clouds, but she kept quiet for me to explain further. When so many sleepers dream lucidly, the risk of unwanted transfer will be too high. We hear of court cases now where the defendant blames his sleeper. Imagine if everyone dreamed lucidly. The threat of visible puppetry will force the SSC to shut down the system. The chains that bind will be broken.
You're more egotistical than I imagined. I really do like you, John, she chuckled.
With that vote of confidence, I delineated my plans of manipulation in greater detail, excluding Jane's potential involvement. She was hooked in the spider web of possibilities, the hope of a better world, and the promise to influence the incipient moments of revolution. I had found both confidant and test subject. She would have the drug of knowledge. With the plan revealed, Jane responded as only one truly whole person could.
I want to help you, John. You can't do this alone.
Except for Carl Schlaf, I did do this alone and could continue so, but I refrained from countering. I'm flattered, but I'm not sure the weight of this effort has impressed you. I underscored the significance with a question. Why would you want to get involved? I need to know why you'll join me.
Changing the world does not come lightly or without consequence, but I'm willing to join you because this change is imperative. We are a desperate people selling freedom for happiness. We are so far gone as a nation and people that we forgot we even made this trade. The devil makes better bargains than Sleep Free. We look back on history with callous pity or flagrant ignorance, believing we are better off, we, the enlightened. It's a sham.
Her voice choked as she went on.
I'm not better off, John. I'm neither a client nor a sleeper, and I am miserable. I teach literature and history to students who can barely read. If they can process the words, the majority hatefully mock the simplicity of old life, the archaic lifestyles poured from the souls of our progenitors. Few, precious few of my sleepers really get it. They are like me. They see a better time. They cry to discover life was not always this lonely. You don't have to read banned books to know that life before Sleep Free was better. I know it in my heart. What's the adage? The poor will always be with you? At what price have we erased poverty? John, people like me are rare. I have found few allies and met many adversaries. The awards ceremony was a lie, a pat on the back with smoke and mirrors. You knew you would trust me the moment we met. We were connected by the great disconnect. Now I'm stuck with you, and I don't mean that rudely. I have to stay with you. Humanity needs a victory, a comeback, a resurrection, and you're the protagonist, the hero we hope we never need. Every tyrant needs a moderator.
So you think I'm a tyrant? I asked, finding her final choice of words cynically apropos. But despite my jest, I was right to open up to Jane. As I listened to her impressions, I couldn't imagine a better ally.
I think every revolutionary is an embryonic tyrant,
answered Jane boldly.
The scales change quickly when the playing field is abolished. After the storm, after your games are played, then is a man truly tested. Then he proves his real heart and purpose. You're wonderful, fascinating, and terrible. I sensed your dark side day one on the banister. It's even more frightening now to see it has an outlet, a destination, a purpose.
Then let the adventure begin,